You are listening to the Warrior Project podcast, where mindset, tribe, and violence meet.
My name is Justin Garcia, also known as Master Chim, and welcome to the Warrior Project podcast. If you guys have not yet gone to thewarriorproject.com, you probably should. Not only are all the other episodes of this podcast archived there, but it is also the way that you join the Warrior Project tribe, which happens to be my membership group. The membership group has hundreds of past episodes from both the Warrior Project, the Pressure Project, various power programs that I've done exclusively for the membership site. You also become a member of our private Facebook group, the Warrior Project Tribe, where I do a weekly live Facebook show there. And the content is probably at this point over 500 hours. Not to overwhelm you, but it is sort of unpacked in a way that's easily consumable. And with the private Facebook group, everybody could just sort of plug themselves right in and start participating in the experience that one has as a member of the Warrior Project tribe. So you can go to thewarriorproject.com and check that out. Now that all that's out of the way, let's get to this episode's query. This episode's query: what is a traitor? What is a traitor? Now, this is a good one. This is one that I think a lot of people just have either the wrong impression of, either emotionally sort of remove themselves from the potential severity of traitorous behavior and the traitors that do it. And sometimes this is just one of those concepts that a lot of people just haven't fleshed out. You know, sometimes we sort of rely on the rules of the group, the laws of the state, and other sort of frameworks to determine how people should be dealt with according to both their actions and the intent that goes along with it. But today we're going to flesh it out a little bit more. Right? We're going to break it down. So the idea of a traitor is something that I deal with pretty specifically and pretty consistently in dealing with tribal dynamics. Right? So what is a traitor? Well, the definition of a traitor for me is somebody who is actively working against the mission of a tribe. Okay? So somebody who is actively working against the mission of a tribe. Okay? Now, first off, let's just get some ground rules down. You need to know the difference between what is in-tribe and ex-tribe. Okay? So in-tribe and ex-tribe is internal and external. Okay, so imagine, the visual that I like to use is the wall, right? You have the village of you and your kind, right? Your group, your crew, your gang, and you have a wall, and that wall is protected. That wall sort of distinguishes who is in your group, who is outside of your group. And that is how I like to present the in-tribe, ex-tribe distinction. Right? So you have to know who's in the tribe and why are you in the tribe? What is the purpose of being in the tribe? Well, it all comes down to mission. Now, you guys have gotten together. Either you were born into this group, you've gone through an admission process to this group, or you just decided to form this group with other identities because you all share a common goal, what I like to call mission. Okay? So it's very important to understand that if we're going to start articulating when somebody is a traitor, when they are not a traitor, we have to understand what they are betraying in the first place. Okay? So now there are two sort of, maybe not two, but there are positions, right? There happen to be two positions whereby people often confuse and conflate where somebody starts being a traitor and where they're just a bad member of your group, a bad ally, whatever it is. And that is somebody betraying an oath or not? Do they have to have given an oath and betray that oath in order to be labeled a traitor? And I will say no. I would say the formality of that sentiment probably has some historical precedent. But if we're trying to break this down formulaically, I don't think an oath is necessary. The way that I label a traitor is somebody who is giving the impression of being in a group and then actively working against it, right? So the oath may or may not have been given, but the impression of somebody being part of the group exists. If somebody betrays a group, if you asked every other person in that group, is this guy who we are calling a traitor, did you think he was part of your group before he did that? They would answer yes, right? So it's really the impression of whether or not they are part of the group that determines if they are a traitor to that group, okay? So with that being said, it's important to also understand that one could be a traitor and an ally to multiple identities or tribes at the same time, right? So an easy example of this is the role of a spy in conflict. How if I was somebody who was on one side, right? I'm on tribe A and I am warring with tribe B, and I have one of my members in tribe A infiltrate tribe B and have everybody in tribe B think he is a part of that tribe. But all the while, he is going to be working, in my best interests. Well, he is an ally to me, but a traitor to them. The fact that he was eventually discovered to be a spy is almost irrelevant. His behavior, his actions working against Tribe B's mission, makes him a traitor to Tribe B. So, if somebody's a traitor, I try to refrain from attaching morality to it, because who is he betraying and who is he operating under? If you were, let's say you and your family was, kidnapped by a group of bad guys, right? And you and your family are there and the bad guys are holding you guys at gunpoint, and one of them, you ask one of them, if you can go to the restroom. You know that there happens to be a weapon or maybe a phone in the restroom. And he trusts you to go and do that. He asked you, you're not going to try anything funny. You say no, of course. Well, are you betraying the trust that he is placing upon you? Well, yes, absolutely. But I don't think anybody would argue a lack of morality where that's concerned, because your alliance and your loyalty is to your family who is kidnapped in that scenario, right? So we use these different scenarios just to sort of illustrate the subtleties and the nuances of concepts that could be so broad and so broadly misunderstood, like traitorous behavior and what is a traitor. Okay, so you have to understand in tribe, X tribe. You have to understand that there needn't be an oath for somebody to be a traitor. What that traitor does is give the impression of being a part of a group and then actively working against that group's mission. Which leads us to the last distinction: enemy and fool. Okay, so the way that I categorize traitors, all right, and I said this in the beginning, it is somebody who is actively working against a tribe's mission. We could add to that somebody who's actively working against the tribe's mission who is giving off the impression that they are part of the tribe, right? So the tribe expects them to work with the mission, but they're actively working against it. Well, there are two types of traitors that do that, and it is the enemy and the fool. So the enemy is somebody who is acting with intent. He is the spy. He is the dad lying to the kidnapper so he can get to his weapon or to his gun in the other example I had given. But the enemy is somebody who is doing it with a plan, doing it understanding that they are going to actively pursue their own mission while trying to not let people in the tribe they're working in understand that they're not working with theirs, right? So the enemy is somebody who is sneaky, somebody who is masking, moving toward his mission covertly, right? And the opposite of that, or the other type of traitor there is the fool, right? So one of the things that I've spoken about when it comes to escalating aberrant behavior, right, or behavior that's working against the mission of the group, the phrase that I use is, mock those people first. You mock them so you don't have to punish them. You punish them so you don't have to exile them. You exile them so you don't have to kill them. You kill them to save the tribe, right? So the fool is probably the biggest culprit, right, where this is concerned. The fool is who this refers to the most, because the fool does not realize that they're working against the tribe. The fool doesn't understand that, joining the army and being against guns is a problem. This little incongruence, this inconsistency here, this almost hypocrisy, may not even register in the mind of the person who's doing it. But it's really, if you're talking about correcting the fools in your tribe, it's on the tribe to have as early an intervention as possible, right? And with the fools, this is important. With the enemies, it's not so simple, because the enemy is not only moving against the tribe, but they may be masking it. It may not be apparent. The fool may be doing things. I remember a few years ago, I had a guy that was working for me, one of my employees. He was mailing out products, right, that I was selling. And unbeknownst to him, instead of charging or using the delivery rate that was, comparable, to the package that we were sending, he was clicking the wrong buttons, or had the delivery service defaulted to a different level of service, and he was basically overnighting packages all over the world. So at one point, I realized that I was losing a lot of money while selling a lot of products, and it didn't make any sense. And it wasn't until I realized what was happening that, okay, we discovered a fool, right? But the person didn't have the intent of an enemy, and we corrected the behavior. Obviously, I had to, punish him for this, and I had him chop off one of his fingers. No, that didn't happen, unfortunately. But it's a lot of yelling involved, right? And we made amends. Eventually, he got past that. But I corrected the traitorous behavior. Now, if he didn't realize he was doing this, and I didn't have the ability to assess that he was doing this, he could have crippled, my business. Because I was losing money. You go over time, you lose enough money, you run out of it, right? But this was corrected. We were able to sort of right the ship and move on. So there is a distinction to be made between the fool and the enemy. But both have to be dealt with, right? So let's get to my take. My take on traitors is that they need to be dealt with immediately, at the earliest possible moment. And the sort of repercussions need to be comparable to the magnitude of their indiscretion, and it can only be discounted by a lack of intent, right? So this is where a lot of, bias comes in, and mitigating your biases when it comes to individuals. You don't want to get to the point where you really like somebody, and because you like them, you're willing to overlook intent in their negligent behavior, their traitorous behavior. Sometimes you could like somebody so much that you can even overlook the fact that they are actively working against the tribe, and almost get into a point where you accept it to a certain extent. If you're a supervisor and somebody who is on your softball team, and you guys are going for the big softball team championship, as terrible as that may be, but if your employee is the star softball player, you may overlook the fact that the employee comes late, doesn't do a good job, aggravates customers, because you really want him in that game, right? So the onus is obviously on the supervisor then to do what is necessary in terms of consequence, comparable to the magnitude of their indiscretion. But it can only be discounted by the lack of intent, not the lack of anything else, not the lack of your bias, or I should say not the presence of your bias. It's not, liking somebody or, rooting for somebody, right? These things don't matter. It's really, did they know what they were doing or not? And the intent is there, even in the form of negligence, they need to be dealt with according to or equal to the magnitude of their indiscretion. Okay, guys? So Hope you guys enjoyed that talk. Talking about traders is something that I've done a lot of over the years. I have a lot of experience, like most business owners and coaches in the martial arts. But we've sort of fleshed that out, and I think you guys now have a good, clear understanding of what a trader is and how one should deal with one if you find one, in the midst of your tribe. So visit MasterChim.com. MasterChim.com is where you will find the email box for the Master Chim letter, right? So the Master Chim letter is a daily morning email that I send out where I give you some updates, product descriptions. Sometimes, I'm releasing new shirts and whatnot. I also talk about, things that happen to be on my mind. It's another way for me to get content out to you. So you can go to MasterChim.com. It's completely free. Put your email in and you'll get that email every morning. Aside from that, thewarriorproject.com, I spoke to you before. Find the archived episodes of this podcast. Also find the way to join the Warrior Project Tribe, which is my membership site. We'd love to have you and see you behind the wall. All right, guys, I enjoyed that talk. I hope you did too. Remember, warriors, someone believes in you. Prove them right.